Does your workbench look like this? You spend more time looking for stuff than actually doing stuff. Searching for things you know you got, you just don't know where they are. Well, it doesn't have to be like that, of course. You can build a French cleat wall where everything has a home. Things are easily accessible. You just walk up, select the tool you want, use it and put it back. 86% of DIYers report finishing projects faster after organising their shop. That's from the Maker Mindset Survey in 2023. Now this isn't just about tidying up, it's about working smarter. And here I'm at the miter saw, but this isn't a standalone machine. There are certain things I need to do every time I use it as part of the process in order for it to operate properly. So for example, if I'm going to cut this piece of timber, say I need a 2-foot length piece of timber, I'm going to take the tape measure that is right next to it, and I'm going to take a pencil and mark 2 feet. I can put the tape back so it's ready for next time. I can grab the speed square, mark my line, that goes back, and the pencil goes back. I bring my line up ready to cut, like so. I'm going to need ear defenders, so I put those on. I'll make the cut. They're going back ready for next time. So these things, this is what I call clustering of the items that I need most in order to use this machine. Now, I haven't stepped away, I haven't made a single step in any other direction. This has speeded up my workflow. And if you think of the brain a little bit like a computer or an internet connection, only has a certain amount of bandwidth, and clutter competes with that bandwidth as well as increasing the likelihood of an accident, whereas clear, tidy spaces increase the flow of dopamine. You get in a flow state. You don't get stressed about where have I put this. You don't waste time looking for stuff. Things are just where they should be. Now, you know, the great thing is, if I was to move this, I'm not going to, but if I was, these French cleats could move with it. And sometimes if I'm working on a project that doesn't require the same things around, I might set up, if I'm doing a lot of them, repeat stuff, I might move my cleats around so that what I have is by this bench, what I need. It's just a hand in the same way. You know, I do a lot of assembly here, so or marking out, you can see I've got a compass, because sometimes I need to do that. I've got a couple of steel rules. I've got my digital calipers, etc, etc. You know, up here, don't know if you can see that on the screen, but I've got a socket set just on a cleat and a little standoff, so when it's on the bench it fits flat, and it just fits on another cleat on the wallboard, just like so. So it's not just about tidying up, I can't get that across enough. It's about working smarter, spending less time looking for stuff you know you got but you can't find. It's about getting on with the project. I'm a really big fan of individual shelves for individual tools. If this was one big shelf, I wouldn't know if this was missing, because it's just one big shelf where stuff goes. But when each shelf has a purpose, I know that if this shelf is empty, this portable lamp is missing, and it's somewhere in the workshop or up in the loft or under the car or wherever I had it last. So it needs to be found and put back where it's got a home, so the next time I need it I know where it is. So the same goes for these batteries. I only ever put fully charged batteries on these shelves. So again, if there's something missing, it's either in the charger or still in the tool and needs to be taken out and put on charge. So that's there. Again, a bit of clustering here. I've got my drills, so grab a drill, grab a battery. If this isn't the right bit, I've got bits here. So yeah, this time I need a star drive. I'm ready to go. When I'm done, back on the shelf into the charger. I make mini tool stations, so this router is pretty useless without this spanner. I can't change any bits. So a couple of dowels on this particular shelf, and that makes always the home for this palm router. The same goes for the grinder. I've got spare discs just held on with one dowel, and the grinder always sits there. So let's talk a little bit about how I went from cluttered bench to tidy workshop using French cleats. Now this didn't happen straight away, there was some evolution of course, but let's just touch on the basics of what French cleats are. I make my cleats from 4" by 3/4 pine, obviously longer pieces than this. I don't use plywood because the plywood option works out about 5 times more expensive, and I made a video on that which you can watch up here. But basically I cut this in half at 45 degrees down the middle, and I then saw again so that the pieces that I'm left with are 2 inches or 50mm high. That's quite important. I'll come on to why later on, but that is quite important. So you end up with 2 pieces like so, and one of those you screw to the wall, and this is called your wall cleat. Personally, I've got drywall here, or plasterboard, and I built a framing so it's at 600 centres, so these screws are at 600 centres on this wall. If you've got brickwork or blockwork, you can put the centres wherever you like. I wouldn't go at greater distances than 600 myself. If you've got maybe metal framing, you're just going to have to find the frames using a stud finder and fix into those. And then to make a tool board or a tool holder like so, this is just a small one so you can see what I'm talking about. You fit the top of your tool holder cleat exactly in line with the top of your tool holder, and then these just simply clip on, and you can see that clearer there hopefully. And so the wall cleat holds the tool holder. It's that simple. Now I didn't just get to this design. What I did was, when I first converted this workshop into a workshop, it was actually literally a pigsty before, where pigs used to stay. I added cleats around every wall. I had something in mind that I was going to do, and so I came up with an arbitrary spacing, which is what most people do, and I set out all around all 4 walls of the workshop. So I had a lot of space that I could hang my tools, organise my tools on. That in itself comes with a little bit of a problem that I fell into, which nearly everybody does, in that I started making each tool holder from what available scrap I had in the workshop. So first of all I was using 1/2 inch, which was overbuild in every case, apart from maybe where I was hanging up a chainsaw or some ladders or a hilty, heavier tools. Now I only use 6mm ply because that's more than enough. But I did run into issues that you see across every photograph or video on French cleats, is that they clashed like this. And I'll go across to the other wall and show you that, and show you how you can get around that really simply, just by making the 2 handiest cleats you'll ever come across. So here I am on another wall in the workshop, and these are the spacings that I initially set out. These are in fact 5 inch from point to point. And these cleats that you see here, these wall cleats, are in fact the same dimensions as on my other wall, but you can see that they don't fit into each other. This clashes here, this clashes here, so this is a dead zone that I can't use. And you see this right across virtually every single photograph of any French cleats I've ever seen. There are these dead zones, and I started thinking about, well, that's just a mathematical issue. So what I suggest you do, if you've already got wall cleats on the wall, or even if you're thinking about putting them in, is pay some attention to this. These are the two handiest cleats that you will ever make. These are just 4 inches by 4 inches, 100 mil square. It doesn't actually matter what size they are. All that matters is that this cleat from the point to the top is 2 inches or 50 mil. And that the top of the cleat and the top of the tool holder are perfectly level. And all you do is you clip that on there and clip it on here and measure from the top of this one to the top of this one, and this is a smidge over 10 mil. So you want to take off 3/4, and so that will be 9 1/4, and I'm going to write on here 9 1/4. You can do this in millimeters obviously as well, and then come down to the next one and do the same thing. That's 15 inches, so that's going to be 14 1/4. And you could even go down to the next one if you wanted to build some really big cleats, and that one is around 20, so that will be 19 1/4. Now if you then start making your tool holders at either 9 1/4 high, 14 1/4 high, or 19 1/4 high, they will all fit perfectly in a patchwork like you saw on the other wall that I've built. Now that's the absolute biggest tip I can give anybody thinking about making French cleats, or that's already got French cleats but is dealing with dead zones that they can't use, is to recalibrate just by making 2 little cleats like this. And all you've got to do then is from then on make sure that all of your tool holder cleat portions are exactly 2 inches or say 50 mil high, and they will always fit, and there will always be just a 3/4 inch gap, so you can lift the tool off and put it back on without disturbing any others. Now as I say, mine are a little bit different and we'll go back to that. But this is the biggest tip I can give you, because all you've got to worry about then, you already know that, say I want to make a tool holder for a hammer or a number of hammers, I know that's going to have to be 14 1/4 inches high, and all I've got to then worry about is how wide I'm going to make it. Because if we go back to the other wall, you'll see that's all I've done. It's that simple. So as I developed my system over time, obviously I was coming up with more and more designs, but it's all quite simple. I made some spacers here so I can set out. I fit the top one, hang this on, and then my next wall cleat goes in here and my next one goes in here. And this is because I'm using 6 mil ply and box joints, so I had to work out the distances quite accurately, and I only wanted a 6 mil gap between them just for aesthetics. Now I also left a bit of room. You can see there's room between each tool, because to begin with I made them as small as possible, but I was getting back, they looked claustrophobic, for example. They looked cluttered, and I wanted to do away with that clutter. As I said before, I wanted the workshop to be a place of calm and beauty, because that enhances my workflow, my creativity, etc, etc. All of these plans are actually available on my website, neatfrenchcleat.com. In fact, there's a bundle pack coming out this week, with a mega bundle of 130 plans. You can get everything you can see on this wall and lots more. And all you need is a laser cutter. I've got a video on laser cutters, entry level from $166, I think. I'll put the link to that as well up here. So even if you haven't got a laser cutter and you're thinking about getting one, or you'd like a wall to look like this, you know, you want to inspire workshop envy in anybody who comes in, this is a really easy way to do it. And as I say, I didn't even build these. My laser cutter cut them. I just assembled them in a few minutes each and hung them on the wall. and then started the laser again to build another one. Think of it as eye candy Lego for your workshop. Anyway, that's a side issue. What I just showed you on the other wall, there's nothing to stop you making a patchwork of tool holders just using plywood and the method I was talking about. These are actually held on slightly differently because they are cut out. Let me find one. So you can see mine are actually laser cut out on the side there. Then if you can see that clearly, yep, there. So there's just one at this end and one here. But it's each to their own. I know that not everybody wants to do this, but you might want to tidy up your workshop with making use of a patchwork method to get much higher efficiency of the use of your wall space. If you have any questions at all, please leave a comment. Answer all comments. I'm happy to discuss whatever. I realise it's not for everyone. If you found the video useful, please like and subscribe. Especially subscribing makes a huge difference to this channel in the amount of people that get to see it. Anyway, I've been Alan, you've been watching. I'll see you in the next video.